Pittsburgh Steelers are set to face their arch nemesis, the Baltimore Ravens, this Saturday in the wild card round of the playoffs. And the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't want to see the Ravens. They just couldn't handle their business against the Bengals. And instead of playing the Texans, an inferior team, now we are going to play the Baltimore Ravens, who are thriving, whose defense has been getting better week in and week out, whose offense, Derrick Henry, averages 5.9 yards a carry. Lamar Jackson having a Pro Bowl season, having an MVP type season. Do you really think the Pittsburgh Steelers wanted to see the Ravens in the first round of the playoffs? No, they didn't. They could say whatever they want. During Tomlin's press conference today, I have no clue what he was trying to say. The familiarity, does it make it any less comfortable? What the F are you talking about, Mike? You're playing the Baltimore Ravens. It's never comfortable. It wasn't comfortable 50 years ago. It's not going to be comfortable 100 years from now. No, we needed you to explain this to us, that you're not comfortable in the familiarity with this team because you played them 3 times. Like, okay, I don't know how you start off a press conference, but this obviously isn't the way. Let's watch the first 10 seconds of this.
It's about this week for us. We're playing someone that we're highly familiar with. They're also highly familiar with us. It'll be a third time that these two teams have come together. We'll do it in their venue. And so there's a lot of work ahead of us in preparation for performance. I don't find comfort in the familiarity. If anything, it just provides.
He doesn't find comfort in the familiarity of anything. What the F are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Literally, what the F are you talking about? We get it, Mike. Like, you can use big words. Hey, how about this? We're going to play to the strengths of our team this week. I don't really even know what that is because we can't throw the ball. We can't run the ball. But you keep promising changes. Now, I know I'm acting totally delusional right now, but if it was up to me, I'd have Justin Fields at quarterback, a guy with bigger upside and big play potential, and Jaylen Warren at running back starting the game. It's not working with Najee. Okay, fine. He's averaging 4 yards a carry. He's over 1,000 yards again. Great. Fantastic. But we're not scoring points. We're not getting in the end zone, Mike. So it's time to put the most explosive players on the field. Could you imagine this week if the Steelers came and played the Ravens and Justin Fields was under center and Jaylen Warren got the ball 25 times? It would just be so much different than what the Ravens are accustomed to seeing. It would be a change-up. They wouldn't be expecting it. But what are we going to get? What are we going to get this Saturday? You know what we're going to get? We're going to get the same old thing over and over and over again. And what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's the definition of insanity. The other day, Mike has a press conference and he says, the running game is our personality. Shouldn't you be playing to the strengths of your team and not worried about what people perceive your personality to be? Shouldn't we be playing to the strengths of the team? Shouldn't we be putting the players on the field that are the most explosive? Najee is not getting it done. Jaylen Warren doesn't get enough opportunities to get it done. Against the Bengals, Connor Hayward causes a fumble. And Najee's kind of banged up. Mike Tomlin doesn't put Jaylen Warren in the game. So who does Mike Tomlin send out into the game after a big turnover? Cordell Patterson, of all people. Hasn't played the entire game, not one carry. The Steelers are still in the game, can win the football game. Big turnover, huge. And he sends out Cordell Patterson, who looks like somebody's uncle at the barbecue with a wife beater on that had too much chicken and beer. I mean, what the F are you sending out Cordell Patterson to run the football for? I'm really confused with this obsession with Cordell Patterson. He doesn't return kicks. That's his specialty. He doesn't return punts. And Mike Tomlin brings him into the game at the worst possible times. He runs a sweep, loses a couple yards, then gets a penalty. It's the same thing over and over and over again. Why don't you say to yourself, you know what? This whole drive, I'm leaving Jaylen Warren in, and we're going to run this rock down their throat. We're going to do swing passes out of the backfield to him. We're going to run it straight up the middle. He runs hard. He can move laterally. He's quicker than Najee. He doesn't get the opportunities to show that he can be the man. It's nothing else but a lack of opportunities. Let's get off that for a minute. Going into this game against the Ravens, the last time the Steelers played, nobody got in their gaps. And Derrick Henry ran wild. I mean, he's a beast to begin with. Even when you get in your gaps, if you don't have 11 guys running to the football, trying to get shoulder pads on them, you're in trouble. If you don't get in your gap, we saw what happened. He'll run for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, what is the main objective on defense? The first guy that the Steelers need to stop? Derrick Henry. Then a lot of people will worry about Lamar scrambling. I'm not as concerned about as Lamar Jackson scrambling as I am Derrick Henry. Because Lamar Jackson is trying to prove with his play that he's a pocket passer. He doesn't really want to run anymore. He will run, but he's trying to show the NFL world that he's a pure pocket passer. So, I'm worried about Derrick Henry first. Who's the next guy we got to worry about? Zay Flowers is probably not playing. He's banged up. Mark Andrews. He leads the Ravens with 12 touchdowns. So, he's a tight end. What does that tell you? In the red zone, who is Lamar Jackson looking to throw the football to? Mark Andrews. The last time the Steelers played the Ravens, Mark Andrews all alone in the back of the end zone. Defensive backs don't communicate. He takes it to the middle of the field. Touchdown, Ravens. This isn't, Mike Tomlin will say, there's nothing comfortable in the familiarity. He'll give you this big word salad. But at the same time, this isn't rocket science. You know them like they know you. You know who they're trying to get to the ball to, like how they know who you're trying to get the ball to. And if the Steelers come out with no game plan and just say, you know what, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, everything's working great, you're going to have big problems again. The Ravens are going to look to put up 50 on the Steelers and put their foot on their throats because it's their arch nemesis. You don't think Harbaugh would love to score 50 on Tomlin? Because if the Steelers don't get it together, that's what's coming. This whole train that's been crashing, you're going to see the climax this Saturday. It's going to be like a explosion. It's going to be like a train running into a brick wall. If the Steelers come out and think they're just going to keep doing the same thing. Now, I know what you're going to say. The defense did play phenomenal against the Bengals. They only let up 19 points. TJ Watt and company, the pressure, that's what you have to do to Lamar. The word pressure, you need pressure times 1,000 times Lamar Jackson. And I know Corey Trice, with Jamar Chase, he gave up 9 catches for 99 yards and a touchdown. Should have been 2 touchdowns. And he did get torched. But if you look at the stats, he didn't get torched that bad. It's not like it's 10 catches for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. Antonio Brown type numbers. Those aren't like huge, tremendous numbers. But if Mike Tomlin came into that game versus the Bengals and said, Jamar Chase, their best weapon, is not beating us today, we're going to double him the whole game, he even has less catches and yards than that. So we're going to leave Corey Trice on. I already made a video on that. I'm not getting into that again. I don't know what the Steelers' plan is as far as trying to stop Derrick Henry first. Gap control football. Are we up for the task to stop Derrick Henry? That's the biggest question. Is the Steelers' run defense up for the task to stop Derrick Henry? I don't know. I don't have the answers. I mean, the last time they got torched. And then when you're expecting the run because you're creeping up to the line of scrimmage, boom, Lamar Jackson hits you for a deep pass, and it really goes south from there. Do I think the Pittsburgh Steelers can stop the run? They did it in the first game, maybe second game. Yeah, no, the first game, excuse me. They did it in the first game. He didn't get on track. But the way it looks now, the way things are going now, I think this is the final climax to a bad season where the Steelers lose 5 games in a row in the worst type of way. Oh, and let's not forget Mr. Pickens, the Queen. We can't forget him. We need George Pickens now than we've ever needed him ever as a Steeler. We needed him last week. We saw how that went. 3 drops, trying to fight people in the crowd. So if we really needed him last week, what about this week? And I have a feeling it's only going to get worse. This is my feeling. This is my thoughts. Russell Wilson's going to be running for his life. He's not going to be able to get the ball to George. And George I really believe this is it. I think this game, it's all going to come crashing down. I can picture George. Remember last year when I think it was Kenny Pickett threw a pick or Mason Rudolph or whoever, and he walked off the field. I think this is where it's headed. Do I want the Steelers to win? Of course I want them to win. What do the Steelers need to do to beat the Ravens? Every time Lamar drops back to pass, he's got to be under constant pressure. Every time Derrick Henry gets the football, there's got to be 11 Steelers on him as soon as he touches the ball. Everybody's got to be in their gaps or the Steelers are going to get torched. The Steelers, can they run the ball efficiently to open everything else up? I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen it. They got the fourth most rushing attempts in the league, and they're ranked 27th in run offense. Doesn't get too much worse than that. So, do I think we should abandon the run totally? No. I think you still need to mix the run in at certain times. Maybe I want to see some screen passes. I want to see passes out of the backfield to Jaylen Warren. You know, Najee, in the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, they were killing teams out of the backfield, catching swing passes. It can't just be 30-yard, Russell Wilson throwing these deep balls over the shoulder into the end zone for big plays. It's not going to work. Run, 3rd and 9, deep pass to the sideline, ball falls incomplete, punt, defense comes on the field. The Pittsburgh Steelers have not scored on the opening drive the entire season. And Mike Tomlin will get, we're a slow starting team. You can't afford to play slow this week. You can't make excuses this week. It's got to come out firing on all cylinders to beat the Baltimore Ravens. Because the Ravens are coming for your head. Offensive line. Steelers offensive line has trouble blocking Kyle Van Noy. Are the Steelers going to give Broderick Jones and more help? Are they going to make adjustments to help block a pass rusher that's having a great season? Because you saw it against the Bengals last week with Trey Hendrickson. Steelers' offensive line couldn't block Trey Hendrickson. He has 4 sacks. Do the Steelers make any adjustments? Do they double him? Did they send out Darnell Washington to chip him and double him from time to time? Nope. They didn't make one adjustment. So he wreaked havoc on the game, the entire game. Are the Steelers going to make adjustments in this game versus their arch nemesis, the Baltimore Ravens, to win the football game? That's the biggest question. I keep hearing Tomlin on Hard Knocks and at these press conferences talking about accountability. Are you accountable? Are you doing this? No, Mike, are you being accountable? Are you being accountable as a coach? When every week you keep doing the same thing over and over again. Jaylen Warren, let's give him the football 25 times this week. Let's give Najee 5 carries like you usually do to Jaylen Warren. If Russell Wilson struggles, Justin Fields needs to come in and play some football. I'd be starting Justin Fields from the start of the game. I wouldn't care. Justin Fields, Jaylen Warren from the start of this game. And the Steelers, if they leave Russell Wilson in, they need to come out firing the football on first down, throwing it downfield. Big play. If you turn the ball over, if you get beat, if it falls incomplete, so what? You got to let them fire the football. Because obviously, what we're doing is not working. Running the ball on every first down, it's not working. Now, if you don't want to change the personnel, if you don't want to change the players, now I think if you put Jaylen in and you had him run the ball every first down, we'd probably get different results. Justin Fields in the shotgun, he scares defenses. The way he takes off when he runs that football, he puts fear in defenses. Fine, he doesn't read the defense as good as Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson is shot. His arm is shot. His legs are shot. He cannot throw the ball downfield anymore. He doesn't scare anybody, but Justin Fields does, because you never know what you're going to get with Justin Fields. Remember, Justin Fields won the first 3 games this year before he was benched. Those games were all flukes? Okay, fine. They weren't the best teams, but guess what? They're still NFL teams. And he still made big plays with his feet and his arm. What more could you ask for? Because Russell Wilson running around back there the last 2 weeks, nothing but fumbles. Against the Ravens, when the Steelers were still in the game, tries to take the ball in the end zone, gets hit, fumbles on the goal line. Fumbled last week getting hit. Fumbles every time he tries to run and he gets hit, he fumbles the ball. He's old. It's nothing personal. It's not. And this whole George Pickens thing, the comparisons with Antonio Brown, it's just like, wow. He could be an Antonio Brown if he wants. George Pickens has 3 touchdowns this year. 3 in an entire year. I don't care that he missed 3 games. Irrelevant. He has 3 touchdowns this entire year. Antonio Brown used to have 3 touchdowns in 1 game. He'd have 10 catches for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. George Pickens is not Antonio Brown. Everybody needs to stop. George Pickens has done absolutely nothing in his career to deserve Antonio Brown comparison or money. It's just everybody's living in a delusional fantasy land on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Everybody. These comparisons. And I have a question. If Tomlin couldn't win with Big Ben, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, the 3 Bs, and a defense that was still from the Cowher era led by Troy Polamalu, if he could, okay, let's just forget the defense for a minute. Marquise Pouncey, David DeCastro, super physical offensive line. If Mike Tomlin couldn't win with that group, you think he's going to win with this group? You think he's going to win a Super Bowl with the group that he has now? Our players now, compared to as an overall team, They're not as good as those guys. So, obviously, well, coaching in the NFL is more important in football compared to all the other sports. A coach in the NFL has more impact on his team than any sport, than baseball, than basketball. Coaching is super important in the NFL. But you need the horses to carry out your plan. So they kind of go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. If you have mediocre players and a bad coach, you go 10-7. If you have great players, the 3 Bs, the defense I was just talking about, Marquise Pouncey, David DeCastro, Villanueva, offensive line, super smash mouth, and you still couldn't win, maybe, just maybe, it's the coaching philosophy. And right away, everybody will say, you hate Tomlin. But no, I don't. I don't hate Tomlin at all. I think the NFL now is not what it was a couple years ago, 10 years ago, 7 years. The type of idiots that you have to deal with on a daily basis, like George Pickens, I couldn't even imagine. Babying an idiot like that, coddling an idiot like that. You don't have to do anything. But a good portion of your players act like George Pickens. Not all of them, but some of them. I think Tomlin should have cut him. I'm officially done with George Pickens after the incident in the Chiefs game on Christmas. I'm effing done. I don't want to hear about George Pickens. I don't give a F about George Pickens. I'm so tired of the Pittsburgh media. You know what it is? A lot of people in the Pittsburgh media, they have to be in a locker room with these players, so they don't want to criticize them, right? And part of your job is you're not just criticizing them, you're analyzing their play and their behavior. And a lot of the Pittsburgh media, George Pickens is not a bad guy. Why? Because he's not committing crime off the field? We're not talking about criminality here. We're talking about football. And in football circles, he's a horrible guy. You want to give him a pat on the back because he's not, committing armed robberies when he's away from the field? We're not talking about any street stuff. We're talking about football. And as a football player and a person in football, he's a horrible human being. Let me tell you why. George Pickens is not going to a job like many of us go to where he gets mistreated and they're abusing him and not treating him right. He's going to a job where everybody in the building wants him to succeed. His teammates, his coaches, the Rooneys, the city of Pittsburgh, the fans. Then they want to turn around. They want to give him millions of dollars. And it's still not good enough. It's still not good enough. He's still looking to cause a problem. He's still looking to be insulted. He's not a good person. He was never a good person. He wasn't a good person at Georgia. That's why he dropped in the draft. Tomlin knew this. Tomlin and Khan, they still wanted him on the Steelers. And that brings us to where we are today. Because if anybody with common sense would have said, no thank you, not doing it, we'll develop other players. Mike Williams, is he going to get more than one target this week? Calvin Austin, Calvin Austin, can we get him some screen passes? Can we get his big play ability involved in this football game this week? Huh, Mike? Or it's going to be the same old story. Run on first down, run on second down, throw a deep pass into the sideline like a rocket into, that moon ball that Russell Wilson throws. If somebody catches it, great. If not, oh well. Can we get Pat Freiermuth involved before the fourth quarter? Can we get him involved early and often? Patrick Queen, you need to step up your game. You only got 60, 70 tackles this year. Maybe there was a reason the Ravens let you go. Because Roquan Smith, he's got like 115 tackles. Patrick Queen needs to step his game up too. The entire Pittsburgh Steeler offense, defense, special teams needs to play as a cohesive unit and as one to beat the Baltimore Ravens. The choice is yours. What it's going to be. I've made my prediction. I hope I'm wrong. I think the Steelers are going to lose 5 in a row. Then it's time for some really tough decisions. Derrick Henry, averaging 5.9 yards a carry, needs to be shut down from the beginning of the game. Because if he starts rolling, it's over. Last thing. Will Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers make the necessary adjustments before the game and during the game to beat their arch nemesis, the Baltimore Ravens?